Let's jump right into today's explainer. Have you ever honestly wondered why most people just completely fail at their biggest goals? It's fascinating, right? It actually all comes down to human psychology. Our brains are literally hardwired to resist massive, sudden changes. So when we try to take a giant leap, our brain just triggers a freeze response. We look at people with massive success and think, oh, they must have made some monumental jump. But honestly, that is completely wrong. The truth, the real secret to a massively successful life, is mostly found in the shadows. It's built on these tiny, seemingly invisible actions that you take when literally no one else is looking. So today, we're exploring a pretty timeless truth. A person's greatness is determined by their thoughts and the incredibly small actions that follow them. This is what we call the 1% rule. And trust me, once you grasp how this actually works, you're never going to look at your daily routine the same way again. To really get a feel for this, let's start with a really powerful story about a young stonecutter. Just picture this guy standing right in front of a giant boulder, just hammering away at it. He strikes it 10 times, 50 times, maybe 99 times, and there is absolutely zero evidence of a single crack to show for all that effort. You can imagine he's getting deeply, deeply frustrated. He feels like his repeated strikes against this massive rock are just completely useless. But then, right on the 100th blow, the rock suddenly splits right in two. And a wise old craftsman who has been watching him steps in and shares this timeless secret. It isn't the final blow that breaks the stone, but every blow that came before it. So what does this all mean for us? How do you actually tackle a giant goal in your own life? Well, I want you to connect that stonecutter's giant boulder to your own big aspirations. Maybe you're trying to master English. Maybe you want to start a business. Or you just want to become an absolute expert in your field. So many of us have these massive dreams, right? But we so often end up feeling totally stuck. Paralyzed, really. Why is that? Well, it's because the goal simply looks way too big. We stare at this giant boulder of our ambition. We try to figure out how to just shatter it with one giant leap. And the sheer overwhelm of it all absolutely paralyzes us. Let's look at a totally relatable example. Meet Leo. So Leo was this young guy with some really deep aspirations. He wanted to become a master woodworker. And he didn't just want to build basic chairs. No, he wanted to create these beautiful generational masterpieces. You know, the kind of furniture that lasts for hundreds of years. He was a smart guy. He had incredible potential. But he had one major problem. He was completely overwhelmed by the massive size of the raw oak logs sitting in his workshop. He would look at this gigantic piece of raw wood and just think, how in the world can I ever turn this massive block into a masterpiece? Because the raw material felt so impossibly huge to conquer, he just froze. And instead of working, he'd succumb to that universal human urge to avoid daunting tasks, and you guessed it, he'd end up just doom-scrolling on his phone instead. We've all been there, for sure. Because Leo's overwhelm was just so heavy, he fell right into the trap of later. He essentially watched the sand slip right through the hourglass of his life. He was constantly daydreaming and telling himself, you know what, I'll just start later. He was basically waiting for this magical burst of motivation, or a perfect moment where the task wouldn't feel quite so daunting. But as we all know, later never actually comes. It's a very relatable trap that completely stalls true progress. Because waiting for the perfect time, well, that's really just another way of choosing not to start at all. Okay, so the cure to Leo's paralysis actually came straight from nature. One day, Leo decides to visit an old master carver in a nearby village, a guy who was famous for his incredible discipline. Leo straight up asks him how he manages to finish such giant projects without losing his focus. The master just smiles and takes Leo out to his garden to show him the great bamboo tree. Now, if you don't know about the great bamboo, it is an absolute biological marvel. Get this, for 5 whole years, it shows absolutely nothing above the ground. It is completely invisible. But underneath the soil, it's painstakingly building this massive, complex foundation of roots. Then, suddenly, in the 6th year, it explodes 80 feet into the air in just 6 weeks. The master turns to Leo and asks, did it grow 80 feet in 6 weeks, or did it take 5 years of small and visible progress? This is what we call the beautiful art of waiting. It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that nothing of real value happens in a single day. Building on that incredible lesson, the old master actually gives Leo a highly actionable 4-step plan. We'll call it the master's blueprint. Let's break these down real quick, because these are rules you can literally apply to your own environment right now. Step 1. Control your thoughts. When you feel that overwhelmed creeping in, remind yourself to only focus on the one small cut you are making right now. Not the whole project, literally just the next cut. Step 2. Make a routine. You've got to stop waiting for inspiration to strike. Decide exactly when you are going to pick up your tools every single day. Step 3. Keep distractions away. When you're in your workspace, the outside world simply does not exist. And step 4, well, this is the most crucial of the whole bunch. Practice every single day. Real success comes from building those tiny habits and repeating them relentlessly. To make this work, Leo had to make a crucial shift in his mindset. He had to completely abandon the fantasy. That overwhelming idea of building a whole cabinet in a single day, or if you're trying to master English, trying to learn the entire dictionary in an afternoon. That is a completely toxic illusion of instant success. Instead, he embraced what we call the 1% habit. He committed to carving for just 30 minutes every morning. It's just like someone committing to learning only 5 new words today. Leo finally stopped trying to build masterpieces in 24 hours. And at first, it honestly felt like he wasn't doing much at all. But slowly, those 30 minutes became the absolute best part of his day. Fast forward just 1 year later, and we get to see the ultimate payoff of Leo's persistent small habits. Leo totally transformed from this daydreaming kid who just scrolled on his phone into a true master craftsman. His shop, which used to be full of those intimidating raw oak logs, was now completely full of beautiful work. Why did this happen? Because his hands grew steady. He finally aligned his daily actions with his big aspirations. He realized a really profound truth. His life was being shaped entirely by what he did every single day, not by his grand sweeping fantasies. Now, to truly master this 1% rule, and it doesn't matter if you're woodworking, building a business, or mastering a new language like English, you need the right internal vocabulary to guide you. Having the right words is actually a critical mental tool because it allows you to clearly articulate your journey and build a real blueprint for success. So let's take a look at the language of success, pulled directly from the stories we just went over. These are 6 power words that really capture the whole essence of mastering incremental progress. First up, it all begins with your aspirations. These are your strong hopes or ambitions to achieve something. Think back to Leo at the very beginning of our story. He had these incredibly deep desires and aspirations to become a master woodworker and create those generational pieces. Your aspirations are essentially your destination. They're the giant boulder you eventually want to split wide open. But here's the catch. Aspirations mean absolutely nothing without discipline. We define discipline as the ability to control your behavior and make yourself work hard. It's exactly what that old master carver possessed, right? He was renowned in his village for his incredible discipline, and that is exactly what allowed him to achieve such breathtaking detail and focus in his work. Discipline is really the quiet engine that makes you show up to the workshop, even on the days when you completely lack inspiration. Now, when that discipline inevitably meets resistance, and it will, you must become persistent. This means continuing to do something even when it is incredibly difficult or takes a very long time. Think of Leo's hands growing steady over the course of that year. It was super hard at first, and it probably felt like he wasn't making any progress at all. But he was persistent. He stuck to his daily 30-minute carving routine right through those frustrating early stages. And building right on top of that persistence is the golden rule: consistency. This is the quality of always acting or performing in a similar way to achieve a goal. Consistency is the core engine behind the old master's 4th rule: to practice every day. Listen, it is not about working for 10 frantic hours one day and then taking a whole month off. It's about showing up with that 1% habit, day in and day out, running like clockwork. When you are remarkably consistent like that, your progress becomes incremental. You are increasing or adding on in small, regular amounts. This brings us all the way back to our young stonecutter. His progress wasn't made of massive leaps. It was entirely incremental. Every single blow of his hammer was a tiny, tiny step toward breaking that boulder, even when the progress was literally invisible to the naked eye. And when you stack all of these together, you inevitably reach a breakthrough. A sudden, dramatic, and important development. This is the ultimate payoff. It's the great bamboo tree suddenly shooting up 80 feet into the air in just 6 weeks. It's the massive stone finally splitting wide open right on that 100th strike. Breakthroughs often look like pure magic to the outside world, but as we've seen today, they are simply the visible result of years of invisible, incremental work. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a rather provocative question to think about. What is one small habit you are going to start today? Seriously, think about it. Remember, if you want to get fit, don't try to run a marathon tomorrow. Just walk for 10 minutes today. Be patient with your progress, be incredibly thankful for the opportunity to grow, and start planting the seeds of your future right now. The 1% rule is right there waiting for you. Go ahead and take that small step today.